Picture this: a religious organization with 8 million followers worldwide, billions in real estate, complete control over their members' lives. But now they're facing something they never saw coming. Courtrooms across the globe, massive financial penalties, former members speaking out, and a pattern of cover-ups that's finally being exposed. The writing is on the wall, and what we're about to reveal will shock you. This is the story of how one of the world's most secretive religions is finally being held accountable. Let's start with the undeniable facts. Right now, at this very moment, Jehovah's Witnesses are being judged in courtrooms from California to Norway, from Australia to the United Kingdom. And the verdicts are devastating. We're not talking about minor fines here. In 2018, a Montana jury ordered the organization to pay $35 million to a single abuse survivor. $35 million. For one case. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. In Pennsylvania, another massive settlement. In California, case after case stacking up. In the UK, the Charity Commission launched a statutory inquiry into how they handle abuse allegations. And in Norway, the government took an unprecedented step. They stripped the organization of its state funding. Millions of dollars gone. Just like that. Why? Because investigators found evidence of systematic shunning practices that violated basic human rights. Think about that for a second. A sovereign nation looked at their policies and said, "This is unacceptable." The evidence is stunning. For decades, the organization had a policy. A secret policy. And this policy required 2 witnesses before they would report abuse allegations to authorities. 2 witnesses. To a crime that, by its very nature, happens in secret. Let me spell this out clearly. If a child reported abuse, but there wasn't a second witness to corroborate it, the organization would not report it to police. They would handle it internally, in secret, behind closed doors. Survivors were told to stay silent, to not bring reproach on Jehovah's name. This wasn't just policy. This was systematic institutional protection of predators. Court documents have revealed something even more disturbing. The organization maintains a database. A confidential database containing thousands of names of alleged abusers within their congregations. Some estimates put it at over 23,000 cases in the United States alone. And here's the crucial detail. If they have this database, they clearly knew about these cases, yet failed to report them to authorities. That's what courts around the world are examining right now. The Australian Royal Commission spent years investigating. Their findings revealed more than 1,000 alleged perpetrators in Australia alone. The number reported to police by the organization was 0. Not one single case. The Commission's final report didn't mince words. They found the organization's policies were not child-safe and created an environment where abuse could thrive. So we're looking at a global pattern here. A systematic failure to protect the vulnerable. And now the walls are closing in. Now here's where it gets really interesting. When you're facing hundreds of millions in potential liability, when governments are investigating you, when your reputation is crumbling, you change the rules. And that's exactly what's happening right now. In recent years, the organization has made sudden policy changes. Changes they're presenting as new light from God. But let's be brutally honest about what's really happening here. These aren't divine revelations. These are legal maneuvers. The first major change involves abuse reporting. They've started telling elders to report abuse allegations to authorities, but here's the catch: only where required by law. Translation: they're doing the bare minimum to avoid criminal liability. If the law says they must report, they report. If the law doesn't require it, silence. This isn't about protecting children. This is about protecting assets. The second major change involves shunning policies. They've softened their language around shunning, but only in certain countries. The reason is transparent. Aggressive shunning policies were costing them their charitable status and government funding. In Norway, they lost their registration. In the Netherlands, they're under investigation. So they issued new guidance saying members can have limited contact with disfellowshipped family members for necessary family business. Sounds progressive, right? But here's what the internal documents show. This guidance is primarily for European congregations facing legal pressure. In countries where there's no legal threat, the old hardline policies remain in place. Let that sink in. They have different rules for different countries. Not because of theological reasons. Because of legal strategy. This is calculated. This is deliberate. The pattern becomes even more revealing when you examine their media strategy. Publicly, on their official website, they emphasize respect for individual conscience and family bonds. They show images of happy families. They talk about dignity and compassion. But the internal letters to elders tell a completely different story. Former elders who've leaked these documents reveal instructions on how to disfellowship members quickly, how to avoid creating paper trails, and how to minimize legal exposure. One leaked letter from the legal department actually instructs elders to avoid putting certain things in writing and to handle sensitive matters verbally whenever possible. The implication is clear. They know these policies won't stand up to legal scrutiny. They know they're vulnerable. The third major change involves property. They've started selling off properties at an unprecedented rate. And this brings us to what might be the most revealing aspect of this whole situation, the money trail. Let's talk numbers. Real numbers. The Jehovah's Witnesses organization, officially the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society, was once a real estate empire. We're talking about properties in prime locations around the world. Their Brooklyn headquarters was a massive complex worth hundreds of millions. Kingdom halls in major cities represented valuable assets. Assembly halls meant more valuable assets. And then, suddenly, they started selling everything. In 2016, they sold their Brooklyn headquarters for $700 million. That's not a typo. $700 million. But it didn't stop there. Since then, they've sold dozens of major properties. Kingdom halls closed. Branches consolidated. Assets liquidated. Publicly, they say this is about simplifying operations and focusing on the ministry. But let's look at the timeline carefully. When did these massive sales begin? Right around the time the legal cases started piling up. Right when the financial penalties started getting serious. In 2015, the California court ordered them to pay $13.5 million to a single survivor, plus $4,000 per day until they complied with discovery orders. $4,000. Every single day. That case alone cost them millions in penalties before they finally settled. And that's just one case in one state. Add up all the settlements. Many sealed by confidentiality agreements, so we don't even know the full amounts, and we're talking about hundreds of millions in payouts. The source is obvious. Property sales. But here's what makes this even more troubling. While they're selling off properties worth billions, they're simultaneously asking members for more donations. They've implemented monthly donation requests. They've installed credit card machines in Kingdom halls. They've launched online donation platforms. And they've started consolidating congregations, forcing members to travel further to meetings, so they can sell the local Kingdom halls. Think about what this means. Members donated money to build those Kingdom halls. Those halls were supposed to be for the community, for local worship. Now they're being sold off. And the money is going to headquarters, to pay for legal fees and court settlements. The members aren't being told this, of course. When a Kingdom hall closes, they're told it's about better use of resources, or following direction from Jehovah. But the real reason is financial survival. Recent financial statements, where available, show something alarming. Their revenue streams are shrinking. Fewer publishers. Less donations per member. But their legal costs are skyrocketing. They're caught in a financial death spiral. And there's another factor nobody's talking about. Insurance companies are dropping them. Multiple insurance providers have refused to renew their liability coverage. The reason is simple. Too high risk. When insurance companies, whose entire business is calculating risk, decide you're too dangerous to cover, that tells you everything. So now they're facing lawsuits without full insurance coverage. Every settlement comes directly out of their assets. No wonder they're selling everything. The scale of this financial pressure reveals something critical. If they have to sell off billions in assets just to stay afloat legally, the scope of the problem must be massive. The number of victims must be staggering. Now let's talk about something the organization can't control with policy changes or money: public perception. Because something fundamental is shifting. For decades, Jehovah's Witnesses were known for their door-to-door ministry, their clean-cut image, their family values. That image is crumbling. Search Jehovah's Witnesses on Google. You'll see news articles about court cases, YouTube videos from survivors, documentary investigations. The truth is getting out, and it's having a real impact on membership. In developed countries, where internet access is widespread and information flows freely, growth has stalled. In some regions, they're experiencing negative growth for the first time in decades. Young people are leaving. Born-ins, those raised in the religion, are walking away in increasing numbers. The reason is straightforward. They have access to information their parents never had. They can read the court documents, watch the news reports, hear the survivor testimonies. And what they're discovering contradicts everything they were taught. They were told their organization was the truth, that it was God's clean organization, that Jehovah protects his people. But the evidence shows something very different. They were lied to. And when you've built your entire life around an organization, given up education, career opportunities, relationships, and you discover it's been covering up abuse and deceiving members, that's devastating. Former members describe it as losing everything. Because when you leave, you don't just leave a religion. You lose your entire social network, your family, your identity. The organization enforces this through what they call disfellowshipping. But it's shunning, social death. Even your own parents are told to cut off contact with you if you leave. And yet, despite this extreme pressure, people are still leaving. That reveals how serious the situation has become. But here's what might be the most significant development. Survivors are organizing. They're forming support networks, creating advocacy groups, sharing information, connecting with lawyers. And they're not staying silent anymore. Organizations like SNAP, Survivors Network of Those Abused by Priests, Avoid JW, and JW Watch are providing resources, documenting cases, and pressuring authorities to investigate. Social media has become a powerful tool. Survivor stories that would have been suppressed in the past are now reaching millions. And each story encourages another survivor to come forward, another witness to speak up. The dam is breaking. The organization's control over information, which was their greatest weapon for so long, is collapsing. And there's no going back. So let's bring this full circle. The writing is on the wall. And that biblical phrase, taken from the book of Daniel, means judgment is coming. Accountability is unavoidable. For decades, the Jehovah's Witnesses organization operated with virtual impunity. They controlled the narrative, silenced victims, protected their image. But those days are over. Courts are ruling against them. Governments are investigating. Members are leaving. And survivors are speaking out. The organization that claimed to be God's clean people is being revealed as an institution that prioritized its reputation over the safety of children. The organization that judged others so harshly is now being judged itself. And the verdict is damning. But here's what matters most. This isn't just about one religious organization. This is about accountability, about transparency, about refusing to let institutions hide behind faith when they commit crimes. Every institution, religious or otherwise, that has protected abusers needs to face consequences. Every survivor deserves justice. Every voice that was silenced deserves to be heard. The Jehovah's Witnesses are finally being held accountable. But this is bigger than them. This is about saying, no more. Not on our watch. If you found this investigation valuable, hit that like button and subscribe for more in-depth investigations into religious organizations and institutional accountability. Share this video. Because the more people know, the harder it is for these organizations to hide. And if you're a survivor of this organization or any other, know that your story matters. There are resources and support networks ready to help. You are not alone. Leave your thoughts in the comments. We'll be watching, and we'll keep investigating, because the truth deserves to be told. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and never stop asking questions.